over and discussed. So, but and what happens in every week, I just welcome our Portuguese community. Sejam bem-vindos. Cá estamos nós para mais programa de notícias da sua vizinhança, a todas as terças-feiras às 7 horas da noite, aqui mesmo neste canal 95. And we're back.
That's it. That's it.
I went to Portugal and I came back.
There you go. There you go. Well, I have a couple announcements I was telling you about, and I know you have some announcements, some things that are actually that are going on in the community. One of them is the Firefighters Museum. They're trying to put a fire museum together in Fall River, and on Friday, September 28th, they're having a comic relief night at White's. And the doors will open up at 8 o'clock. Tickets are $20, and they're available at the New Boston Bakery at 279 New Boston Road in Fall River, all the fire stations in Fall River, or you can contact Kenny Ledger at 508-674-3777. Sounds like it'd be a fun night, and it's to help to get this fire museum together, which I think is great. You know, for the city and for economic development, another thing to come into play. The next thing is there is a car show for the Kennedy Park New Inclusion Playground. That's going to take place on Sunday, September 30th from 10 to 2 at Kennedy Park. I believe it's the upper part of Kennedy Park, and all the proceeds are going toward helping to get that inclusion playground together, and they've been doing some fine work down there. I think they just had a movie night, and I think they said they raised like $1,400. So, so another step toward that. Yes. So, and you're going to tell us about your movie night in the Flint,
yes,
right?
and what happened was one of the trips that we did to the bioreserve. Yeah. One member of our board, Bernadette, that we had a couple of shows back, she asked me, Carlos, why don't we do a movie night on our neighborhood for the people and the families that don't have cars and they don't have a way to get to Kennedy Park, to our other neighborhoods, a movie night. And I said, as long as you get involved, I have no problem. I have a lot to do, so if you wanna take the project, I'm here to help you. And that's going to happen. And it's going to happen next Friday, the 31st.
Okay, excellent.
And it's going to be right on the Flint Plaza. And the movie is going to be on the wall of Adventado parts.
Excellent.
And we have all the business there on the plaza participating. It's a free event. People don't have to pay anything to get in or anything, and we're going to give free popcorn for the kids and for the people that are watching the movie. Okay. And the movie is The Three Stooges.
That's good. Hey, it's a good way to start the Labor Day weekend, too,
exactly.
Right?
One more thing for our community to enjoy, and we are working on a project too for September and October, is a movie and drive.
Cool.
On our neighborhood too. So those two will be part of fundraisers for the association.
Excellent.
But we will be mentioned on future shows. More information about.
Great.
And I think we're done with the presentations. Let's go home.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Al Lima would appreciate that since he came down here, but I guess tonight is Al Lima. Welcome, Al. And if folks don't know Al, he is currently involved with the CPA, but he has been really active with this Quequechan River bike trail, which has been really fantastic.
Yes.
So I don't know, Al, what you want to talk about first. Would you like to talk about the Quequechan River trail that's coming into fruition shortly?
Well, if I could, John, let me just begin with the Community Preservation Act, the CPA, as it's known.
Yes.
This is an act that was passed by the state legislature 12 years ago in the year 2000, and 148 communities have adopted it. And what the legislature did was to basically provide legislation that would allow communities to raise funds for improving the quality of life in those communities. And the funds would be used for three things: for parks, open space, and recreation would be one. And then improving historic properties would be another, both buildings and and landscapes. And the third would be community housing, including the rehabilitation of neighborhoods. So those are three things that the community can use these, and they're dedicated funds. They have to be used for that purpose. So the City Council has endorsed the CPA by basically voting to bring it to a referendum. They haven't endorsed it per se, but they voted to have it go to a referendum on November 6th, and the citizens will have a chance to vote on whether they want to increase their taxes by a small amount, 1.5% surcharge on the real estate tax rate, which comes to about $19 per household per year, or the cost of 2 pizzas, you might say.
Yeah.
But basically, that $19 would raise $1 million, both from what the city would raise, and then there's a state match that goes along with that. That would bring it up to that purpose, and then we could use that funds to match other funds as well, anywhere between another $1 million to $10 million, depending on the program. So it's a great thing to have. The communities that have adopted it have love it, and they use it to good effect. So, and I think it'll be quite a game changer in Fall River, because oftentimes the city doesn't even have the match to go after other funds. In one instance where we had gotten a major grant to rehabilitate North Park, we had to give the money back to the state because we couldn't raise the $73,000 for the match. So hopefully, if we pass CPA, we won't have to do that anymore. We can actually have enough match money to really bring in a lot to rehabilitate our parks. And our parks need a lot of work. It's been, a few generations since the Great Depression, since our parks have really had quite a bit of work done to them. So we have to do a lot of catching up, including with Father Travassos and Pulaski Park and many other parks in the city. So I brought these boards that explain the Quikasham River Bike Path and the Mount Hope Bay Bike Path, because the CPA can help match state and federal funds to build bike paths. Bike paths are rather expensive, especially if they require bridges. So the city will have to come up with at least 10% per mile for bike path. But let me just...
But if I can ask you before you go to that,
Sure.
Do you know how many gateway cities are involved or participate in the CPA, out of curiosity?
None that I know. We'll be the first one
Okay.
to do it. New Bedford hasn't, Lawrence or Lowell or any of those major cities.
Those
Worcester, Springfield, none of them have
so the majority of people that are participating in this are probably like small towns?
yeah,
smaller
many of the
towns.
communities that participate are the ones who really don't need it that much.
Yeah.
The wealthy towns were the first ones to participate because they want to preserve their open space. Most of the towns adopted for that purpose. So, but no, we'll be the first of the major cities major gateway cities to adopt it, and it'll be a good first for us.
Could you give us some examples of what other towns have done when they acquired that CPA money?
Well, they've acquired land, open space. They've fixed up historic properties, including historic cemeteries, for instance, as well as structures. Historic town halls have been renovated with CPA money. Bike paths have been built. Parks, a lot of park work has been done, recreational improvements and things like that. So playgrounds have been built, water sprays, and all that kind of thing. Everything you could think of, really.
It's any estimate can you estimate and give us probably a number how much could be raised just in Fall River if CPA?
Yeah, it would be about $750,000. And then the state would give us about almost 25%. So we'd get another $250,000, and that's where we get the $1 million from, the $750 that we would raise, and the $250 that comes from the state's trust fund for that.
And that passing, everybody is on that program? Everybody that owns property?
Yes, anybody who pays a real estate tax bill. So residential property owners, both rental and home ownership, and commercial property. The housing authority doesn't pay taxes, so anyone living in a housing authority unit wouldn't pay, for instance. There's also a low and moderate income exemption for those people who feel they can't afford the $19 a year, so they could file for an exemption. And also there's a $100,000 exemption off the top of property. So if somebody owns a $250,000, a home valued at $250,000, then that first $100,000 wouldn't be subject to the surcharge. So they'd only get the surcharge assessed to them on the $150,000, not the $250,000.
But that is for every residence?
Every homeowner.
Every homeowner?
Yes.
And part of that money, I think you've explained this one time to me in the past, part of that money is coming from the Registry of Deeds. That's how the state is getting this money to fund this, right?
Yes. Yeah, the state trust fund that gives us the 25% raises its money through real estate transactions. And we've been paying that. And whenever we mortgage our home or refinance, there's a small charge that comes to that. So Fall River residents have been paying into that for 12 years, but we haven't been getting any benefit from it. So if we do adopt a CPA, we'll finally get the benefit of that.
Could you explain to, just so people know what the process is, there would be some kind of committee that would be set up that would move toward allocating this money? Could you explain that?
Yes.
Okay.
The state CPA law requires that there be formed a community preservation committee that would make recommendations to the city council, and then the city council actually makes the final decisions on whether what projects get funded every year, and they vote on it each year. So, but the CPA committee, the state law says that the committee has to be formed of 5 members of different committees. The Park Board, the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, the Historical Commission, and the Housing Authority. And then if the city wants to add 4 more, it can go up to 9 members, and those 4 additional members are chosen at large.
Okay. So you were saying if we could get, say, $1 million a year, it's a possibility. Could that money be carried over, say, for 5 years and just spent on one big project?
Yeah, that's a good point, John.
Okay.
Yes, and that happens a lot. Okay. Especially with the housing money. Many communities don't spend much. The law requires that you have to spend 10% on each of those 3 things, parks, historic preservation, and the housing neighborhood component. Yeah. But if you don't want to use it in any one year, then that 10% goes to the next year or any succeeding years.
I think, and I know I've heard this occasionally from folks with, part of it, like you said, each has to be spent on something. And I think the housing component at times, I've heard people talk about that, that's a hot button issue in this community with low income housing. But I think with that, we already have a lot of folks that already make that, that are in that low income bracket. So it would be just fixing, say, a single family house. It could be used for that kind of avenue too, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, CPA funds, housing funds can be used for up to 100% of median income, and many of, in fact, over 50% of Fall River residents are under that, so more than half the city residents would qualify for housing funds. And how we use them, I don't know. Some communities have created a housing trust fund, and then the housing money would go into that, and then when a good project comes along, then that funds would be used for that. I'd like to see it, as a member of Save Our Neighborhoods, I'd like to see the funds used to fix up problem properties in neighborhoods that really bring a neighborhood down, like an abandoned building or a house that's really in bad shape. Because if we could do that, if we could focus on those properties, then we could really do a great job in saving neighborhoods from deteriorating. It's sort of the broken window effect. If you don't take care of that broken window, it brings all the other properties down.
Well, it's actually too bad that we didn't start this maybe 10 years ago, because with all these new schools, that would have been a great project to use this money toward, making community centers or big playgrounds, or it could even use it for some kind of housing there too. So it's too bad that didn't happen. But I'm glad you're working with that now and doing a lot of good work with that. So, but yeah, if you want to tell us, I know Carlos and I know you were there. There was a meeting a few months back on this Quequechan River Trail, which I know you've done a lot of work on, and I think it's going to be a fantastic program or project, I should say. And I think they said it's going to be built in 2016 or 2015. Is that the?
Well, that's the target date.
Okay, great. Which is right around the corner. It's already almost
Yeah, it's really
2013.
just a few years away. That would be great. But yeah, let me just.
Okay, great.
Can I?
Yeah, you can. Yep, you're all set. Yep.
Okay. This is Interstate 195 here. This is Mount Hope Bay here. The waterfront here. The downtown is here. And South Watchuppa Pond and North Watchuppa Pond is up here. And the existing bike path runs from the Westport Town Line and goes all the way to Brayton Avenue. Then it stops. And the proposal is to bring the bike path down Brayton Avenue a bit and then go along and back on the old rail line that once went from New Bedford to Fall River. And then you can see this from 195, but it's all just trees now. So, but the plan is to basically take that old rail line and to convert it into a bike path, and that would come to Plymouth Avenue and then through the center of town and into the bike path that's going to be built along Route 79 and going along the Taunton River and across the new Veterans Bridge, which has a bike path on it. And then there's also a proposal for a bike path along Mount Hope Bay, and I'll just show that in a minute. But this would be part of a larger bike path that would go from Provincetown on the Cape all the way down to Providence through Fall River. So it's really a regional bike path, but also has a lot of local significance for us as well. And it also is significant for the Flint neighborhood and the Niagara neighborhood, because basically it really would bring those two neighborhoods together. Right now the Quequechan River really separates those neighborhoods. But the bike path would really be an amenity that everyone would use and that the CPA would help to fund, especially little spurs that would go off the bike path, such as along Britland Park. There's Pleasant Street along here, the police station's here. Along Britland Park, with forming a greenway here along the Quequechan and coming back and looping through Father Travassos Park and back up here along Brayton Avenue into the existing so that it would actually go right into, the bike path would go right into the Flint. And then the same would be for the Niagara and the Maplewood neighborhoods as well. The bike path will come down here and will cross here and then go up. But it also could go in back of the new Walmart as well along the Quequechan River. It's beautiful, quite lovely area back here, and then continue on and then form a series of loops so that the loops would go into the Niagara neighborhood and into the Flint neighborhood as well. And these orange spots here, the dark orange is where the existing historic mills are in the city, and then the light is light orange is redevelopment areas. So the bike path could be a spur to redeveloping these historic areas, again with CPA money if that's needed, and then also revitalizing downtown, because all this new traffic is going to be coming downtown looking for a place to have lunch or just to stop and have a coffee. So there'll be quite a few people coming through. And again, it's a regional bike path, so it has a lot of significance, and that's one of the reasons that John mentioned it's going to be completed in the year 2014, if not sooner, and that's just a couple of years away. But the design is in process, and the state has allocated quite a bit of funding for that. So it's really a great thing. But again, the city has to come up with this match, and that match could be through the CPA. And just want to touch a bit on the Mount Hope Bay Greenway, which will run from the downtown area. This is the Braga Bridge here and Mount Hope Bay here, and downtown up here. But it would come down from the waterfront along the old rail line that once went from Fall River to Newport, and then cross Kennedy Park. This is Kennedy Park here. There'll be a redeveloped overlook here, overlooking Mount Hope Bay, beautiful area right there. And then proceed down along the freight line, which is being reactivated, but the bike path can go along the freight line, and then into Tiverton. And the state of Rhode Island is planning to bring a bike path from Newport all the way up to Tiverton. So across the new Secana Bridge. The new Secana Bridge will have a bike path across it, built with it. And then from that, there'll be a connection to up Globe Street, parallel to Globe Street, and through Globe Corners, Father Kelly Park and Shoe Playground, up to a greenway along Cook Pond. It's about 3 miles of bike path and walking path along Cook Pond. We call these bike paths, but most people who use them are walking or running or walking their dog, or, as well as bikers. So, but this is a beautiful scenic area along Cook Pond, and some of it is already owned by the public, such as along Henry Lloyd's School here and a few other places. But this could also result in the revitalization of the old King Philip Mills here, and the Charlton Mills and the Shove Mills. But it's a great way to bring bike paths right into the south end and the Maple Woods area as well. And then connect it with the larger path. Again, a regional interstate path, really, that would go into Rhode Island. So it could really be a wonderful resource for the city of Fall River, and lead to really enjoying the city much more than we do, enjoying our neighbors as we...
How many miles do we have right now of people using?
Only about 3/4 of a mile of bike path is built from the Westport Town Line to Brayton Avenue. So it's not much, but people still use it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They still
If you build it, they'll come. The boardwalk along Mount Taunton River is a good example of that.
Mm-hmm. And with this plan, how many miles we will be adding?
I'd say about 12 miles.
Okay. It's,
between around
Wow, that's
Cook,
good.
as I said, Cook Pond alone will be 3 miles, but Mount Hope Bay is about 5 miles, and Quikasham is about a few miles. So, and then going up the Taunton River to Weaver's Cove area, that would add more. So it's really an ambitious plan. It'll take many years to do, but in 20 years it could be done. You know? And as we said, in a few years we'll have the Quikasham one completed. Maybe 2
so
or
the
3.
first step, the next ones they are working. Which ones they're going to work first?
The Quikasham River one.
The Quikasham.
Yes, yeah, that's in the design stage right now, and there were Gateway special funding program, Gateway Cities program that's targeted to the older cities
So
in the
that's the
state.
one that's going to cross Britain Avenue.
Yes,
That piece that's going to cross Britain Avenue, and
Through like toward Britland Park, through the highway there.
exactly. Yes, it's the same one that's going to cross Quikasham Street.
yeah,
Yes.
yes. The Quikasham River one will have to cross Quikasham Street. Yeah, along like the old rail line did, where the old rail line crossed
Yes,
Quikasham.
because the meeting that I attended was a couple of questions and a couple of concerns about people crossing those two places.
Those areas,
Yes.
yeah.
You know,
And I remember that meeting. Only because I've been to a few bike paths. One that's really local is in Fairhaven, that I have relatives that live there, and there's a busy road, Sconneck Road. It's pretty busy road right off Route 6, and there are no stop signs there. But people that are driving there, they know people are on bikes or running, and they're really cautious. And people that are running or on these bikes know that there's a main road coming up, so there are signs. The only place that I've seen flashing lights are down in the D.C. area, down in Virginia. They have some flashing lights, that's it. There's no stop things, it's just a flashing light. No, come up, dangerous, that kind of thing. But this stuff all works. So I think it can work here, and we were talking about that earlier. Sometimes we don't think things are going to work here, but they've worked in every other place in the world.
Yes.
They're going to work
yes.
here.
It's just those 2 points is because of the traffic coming out of 24.
Yeah.
It's a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think they took notes of the problem, and probably putting a light there will stop them instead of just coming out of the highway. They will have to make a stop there if you put a red light there.
Yes.
So
The
I mean,
Brayton
it's a
Avenue
ways. It's a ways to
it's-
go around and to fix it.
Exactly.
I do drive by the one in Warren
Yep.
and the one in Barrington, and they have small stop signs for them, for the bikes, not for the road.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't stop the bikes. We stop the cars.
See?
Because
Well, I
it's the
stop when I-
mentality,
I know when I
it's
travel.
already the mentality of people.
People, yeah.
And when I drive by there, I stopped. And even today, I stopped. There was nobody coming. But we have that thing that,
Yeah.
it's like a crosswalk. We kind of go slow and we almost stop just to make sure it's nobody in bikes.
Yeah.
But I think that we will.
Yeah, I think it's going to work. I don't know, Al, if you know, I think Lawrence, didn't they create a bike path up there? And that's an urban area. Do you know if they've I thought I read one time that they created a bike path up there. And
I'm
Lawrence,
not
and
sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's a pretty, this works in urban areas like we have here. So it's maybe, I think this is going to be great when it comes because people are going to see it's going to be there and it's going to work. And it's not going to get destroyed. People are going to take care of it. And I think with anything, as long as it does stay clean,
Yes.
people have a less likelihood. Like when you go to Disney, I haven't been there in years, but when you go there, you can eat off the floor. Nobody throws anything on the ground.
Yes.
And I think that's sometimes part of our problem here. When people see things that are messy, they probably get off the highway, they throw things out the window because they go, look, it's not clean here.
And we don't have to go too far. When I go to New Hampshire, and I go to New Hampshire a lot, and I see a lot of Fall River people there.
Yeah.
But it's unbelievable. They use the trash cans there, but they don't use it in Fall River.
Yeah.
So it's like depend where you are, I guess.
Yeah, and
I
it's
don't
that
know.
mentality. And I even can say the other day I was walking home from Dunkin' Donuts, and as I'm walking, somebody from Rhode Island throws a cup out the window, like driving up there. So they're not even from here; they're from Rhode Island, and
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think if they see things, and if we can try to keep that up, people are gonna see that and try to move forward. But before we get to the end here, Al, you guys have a website, and if we could put that on the screen, if you want any information, they do have a website, and I think it was fallrivercpa.net, right? Was the
Yes,
website?
yes.
Okay. So
And the website includes a number of questions and answers that are frequently asked about CPA. So if anyone wants to find out more information about it, they should go to the website.
And they can contact you through that
Yes.
website,
Yes.
right?
Yep. And as anywhere, they're looking for volunteers. So if you'd like to help push this initiative forward, there's contact information there that you could contact you, right, regarding that?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe there is.
Okay, great. Okay.
In
Well,
30 minutes.
Yeah,
Wow.
it went by quick. Yes, we like bike paths, right? So
Yes,
As
yes.
soon as you get this bike path, then you're going to get a new bike, right? And
That's
new
it.
helmet and all this
No,
stuff?
I have the bike. I don't have the place to bring
Ride
the
it, right?
bike.
All right,
Yes.
so see, once this is
right.
here, well,
So I'm waiting.
yeah, we're waiting. So that's great. That's great. Maybe we can even, I think they've even started a half marathon in Fall River, I think I read.
Yeah.
So maybe these are more things that we could tap in. New Bedford, that's a big economic boom when they have that half marathon. So maybe we could get more of this stuff in here. So,
Very good.
but again, if you could, the website is fallrivercpa.net. Any information, you can contact Al. Al, thanks a lot
Thank
for
you,
coming
Al.
today.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
for
You're very welcome. Yeah, thank you,
you.
gentlemen, for
Thank you.
inviting me.
All right, another night.
That's it. Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a good night.